When most students have to do research for the first time, they struggle to find good articles. Mostly that's because they're used to just using Google. Google's great for simple pieces of information that are isolated, like a movie time or a phone number or the just simple pieces of information. However, when you do academic research, you're looking for information that's part of a tight network of information, meaning everything's all connected to each other. And it's important to be able to understand those connections and use those connections to help you find good information, related information, better information, high quality information. Another thing that's important to keep in mind is that the information that you're looking for, the articles you're looking for, usually have gone through a process and what we call peer review. And this process helps guarantee that the information in the articles is reasonable, something that people can check on and can trace if they need to. Most of the things you find on the internet, you can't trace it. You don't know where it came from. You can't therefore judge the motives of the poster, the accuracy of the information. Even though the information may be true, often it's very difficult to trace. So keep those things in mind as you're looking for these articles. The library website, which you see here on the screen, is the best place to start. Most university library websites have sections where they give you tutorials on research, and Trinity's library website is no exception. If you look at it here, you'll see that there's a section on how to contact the library, and you'll see there's a section on research here. These things are important for you to explore, especially if you're feeling stuck. If you want to start, let's do just some sample searches. A good place to start is a database for articles. Trinity pays to have access to these. Many students start with Google Scholar and they're like, I can't find any articles. They all want me to pay for all these articles, $30, $40 for one article, which of course you don't have to do. When you paid your library fees, Trinity buys access to certain databases, and often these are useful for finding the kind of information that you need, the kinds of articles you need. So we'll click on the article and databases one. The first thing you notice is that it gives you a list of subject areas. Of course, it's a good idea to click on any one of these, whichever one seems to fit best with what you're doing. So many of you do leadership, some of you do business, some of you are interested in psychology, some of you are doing religious studies. These things are important to keep in mind, that you choose one that is appropriate, because each database is usually organized according to different disciplines. And so you're going to find concentrations of articles related to your academic focus. Before we move on, if you notice here it says online TWUX, I'm going to open that. This gives you some information about using the articles or using the databases. Talks about how to access off campus, any copyright issues you may have to think about, using other libraries, and there's even a chat function here if someone is available for you. You can just chat directly with them. Let's just, let's say I'm doing some research on the effects of Facebook with children, for example. Parenting, right? So maybe we'll check out sociology here. Maybe that's a good place to start. So you'll see here, we've got Bill. Bill is the head research librarian, and he's really good about helping. And if you live near Trinity's campus, Bill or any of the other research librarians are often available to sit down and help you find some articles. So don't be afraid to contact them and maybe even schedule an appointment. And again, you'll see the same chat function here. Some good databases to start with. Probably the easiest one to start with is Academic Search Premier. This is a very basic, general database. Actually, we should say that Academic Search Premier, This is a database. When you pull it up, though, it may look like something you've seen before at perhaps another university if you've been to them, called EBSCOhost. EBSCOhost is kind of like a Google for different databases, although it doesn't say EBSCOhost here. Academic Search Premier is one of the databases. If you click on this, where it says Choose Databases, it will bring up a whole bunch of databases. Now, if you went through the page where you could select the different disciplines, sociology, business, these things should already be selected for you, but just so you know it's there, you can change the database by clicking Choose Databases. So let's start with something basic. Like I said, I want to research the effects of like Facebook on children. So I might start with something like this, social networks. Search for it, or a social network. Now, the first thing you notice we've got almost 100,000 articles here. So I better start reading quick, huh? The other thing we'll notice is as we scroll through this, some of these seem potentially relevant, but a lot of them don't. What this tells me is that not that I need to scroll through hundreds of pages. I could do that, but that's kind of a waste of time. It's better to learn to do better searches. So I may add something like, so if I'm looking here, I see some things about computers, but also things about like residential homes and road networks and hotel managers, right? What does that tell me? That tells me social networks may relate to computers, but it may also not. Social networks might be a term that people use to talk about things besides Facebook and Twitter and all of these. So I may search something like social networks, computers, right? Or internet or something like that. Now we're getting something a little bit better, at least these things, although we're still getting the residential home. What we may need to do is think about how the computer looks at this. Can a computer read? No, computer can't read. So when the computer sees social networks computer, it doesn't realize that these three words are that, for example, social network is a word we use to talk. We use these two words together to talk about one thing. See, the computer sees social and it sees network, and it doesn't realize these things are disconnected, or that these things are connected in our mind. So what we can do is we can put quote marks around it. And then the computer says, okay, I'm looking for this phrase, social networks, and this word computer. And maybe we'll add something else like parenting or children or something like that. Now we're starting to get much closer to information that might be useful. For example, my Facebook family. Should adolescent psychiatric evaluation include information about online social networks? Parents' use of information and communication technologies for family communication. So these are good. We see that this says academic journals. We also see this thing that says periodical. Periodical is like Time Magazine or Newsweek. These are, you see here, it's Essence. So it's like a magazine that you might get in the grocery store. These are not academic sources. They're useful for finding general overviews of a topic or maybe getting a little bit of useful information, but they're not really giving us a good, deep argument that we want to use for our academic summary. So we want things that are more like academic journals. What we can do here is we can limit the search results. We might limit it to peer-reviewed. This means that when it's published, other people, so for example, if I have my PhD and I want to publish an article on my research, other people who are experts in my field have read my article and gone through a process. We've gone through an editorial process where they check the information and they basically verify that it meets certain academic standards. Doesn't mean it's perfect, doesn't mean it's correct, doesn't mean that somebody may not challenge it at some later point, but it means that it meets a certain standard of excellence and information verifiability. Okay, so we've clicked on that. Look, we've got 50 articles, so we're doing pretty good. This is something manageable. We can scroll through this. Now, I'm going to teach you two tricks. These are perhaps the most useful tricks you will ever find for searching for academic information. First, we have to find an article. Now, you'll notice that some of them say PDF full text and some of them don't. If it's here, if you see PDF full text, you know that this is in the Academic Search Premier database. If it does not, for example here, it may be in another database, but we may not know it. So you can click check for availability, or you can search the one where we have the full text. Okay, now I'm going to show you my two tricks. Let's do the one, let's find one where we've got the information, or where we've got the article here. So let's see, searching for one. Parental friend requests on Facebook. So if you're a parent and you friend your child, perhaps. So we'll click on this. Maybe this is relevant. Now you notice it doesn't take me to the article. If I want to see the article, I click here. What it takes me to is this library record. This is really important. This is the difference between Google and the library database. The library database connects the information about the article with all kinds of other pieces of information. So when I searched social networks and computer parenting, did this bring every article related to this topic? No, because maybe someone doesn't use the term social network, or maybe they use the term internet instead of computer, right? So what I want to do is, this is the first trick, I look at subject terms. Subject terms down here. These are the ways that the database has organized and connected all sorts of articles on different topics. So we see social networks, we see parent and child. So what I may do is I may click on one of these. So let's just click on this one, social networks. When I open this up, it gives me all of the articles on the Academic Search Premier database that have social network in it. You'll see here it's quite large. So subject terms are very useful. The other trick is when I go to PDF full text. Let's say this article is very useful. Maybe I use it. Maybe I use some information from it, but maybe it's not. All articles, though, whether they are themselves useful or not, have something that may be useful to us. You scroll all the way to the end, and what have we got here? A list, the bibliography or the works cited page or the references page. This is a list of all the articles that this article uses in it. Notice it's quite long. Maybe some of these articles might be useful for us. You can use the information provided on these pages to search for it. If for some reason you're finding that you can't find this article on Trinity's database, then that's a good time to go to Google Scholar, because you've got all of the information here that you need to access Google Scholar, to find something on Google Scholar. That's not a guarantee it will be free, but sometimes you're able to find a lot of articles for free through Google Scholar, especially if you're pretty clever and you know ways to search for it. So this is, in essence, what these are my two tricks. I think you'll find them very useful when it comes to finding academic articles. Another thing about academic articles, look at it. It doesn't look like a magazine. It looks pretty boring, huh? So most of the time, your academic articles are going to look like this. They're going to have big, giant, ugly names. They're going to have several authors often. They're going to have where the authors come from, and then they're going to have a summary of the article at the top. This is called the abstract. So that's a quick introduction into using Trinity's database, along with two tricks that I think are probably going to be the most useful things you've learned about doing research in a long time. So if you have any questions, you should try contacting the library if you're stuck or you're not sure where to go, or try contacting me. And any help that I can provide, I'm happy to do. And like I said, the librarians are also usually pretty good at connecting with you. Maybe you can call them on the phone or chat, or set up a face-to-face meeting if you live in the Langley area.